My idea is to put some Gorilla super glue down into these holes and hopefully do this without getting any Gorilla Glue on my hands.
Hey lady, guess what?
BigRobsVan is cruising down the old dirt road.
Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Rob. This is BigRobsVan. We're going to have a great episode today. We're going to do some van repairs, and then we're going to go do some stealth camping, some urban camping downtown. So to get started, let's get to those repairs, and then let's get on the road. On the road again. What kind of place is that? Just can't wait to get on the road again.
Keeps rolling, the memories they appear.
So the first thing to fix on my list is this keyboard tray. Now, I thought this was a genius invention of mine. I made the keyboard tray and I mounted it to these self-locking brackets that flip. They do flip all the way up and they lock into position, but as you can see, when they go down, they block access to the storage underneath my desk, including my battery. You can't see it at all. So my plan is I bought these piano hinges, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these piano hinges and mount them to the top, and that way the extra piece of wood that I use as a keyboard tray will flip the other direction. And then what I'm going to do is unscrew the brackets so that they will still be weight bearing, so I can flip them up to hold the weight of this, but it won't be screwed to that. This will all make sense in about 3 minutes. Now, I was going to try and save some time and just screw these screws directly into the wood, but they just wouldn't work. The tops of the screws were a little too soft, and I tried multiple different tips, and they just kept spinning out or stripping the screws. So it looks like the only way to do this is to actually drill holes for every one of these and then put them into the wood using a screwdriver. And let me tell you, my hands must be super wimpy because they were cramping by the time I did the second screw. So this took a long time. Each of these hinges has 12 holes, so that's 24 screws that I had to put in manually with a screwdriver. After I had installed enough screws to hold the hinge in place, I removed the screws from the bracket underneath just to see how this was going to work. And it does seem like it's going to work. I don't know if this is the best solution, but for me, this is workable. With all the screws in and the brackets loosened underneath, it was time for the final test. As you can see, it flips right over, and this works exactly how I wanted. Except I just noticed that all the screws I put for the piano hinge are now poking out through the other side. I'm gonna have to cut the tips of all those screws off and sand that down, and that sounds like a great project for tomorrow, Rob. This is, I believe, the second appearance of my Ryobi rotary cutting tool on the channel. I'm always going to call it a Dremel, even though it's not Dremel brand. This thing has a quick change tip system, which I absolutely love. You can change tips in about 5 seconds, and it charges through USB-C. I'm not selling these, I'm just telling you some facts. But with this thing, with the cutting disc, I was able to cut the ends off of all the screws. As you can see, it just pretty much slices right through these things. And then I used one of the little grinder stones. This is probably not its intended purpose in life, but I used it to grind down the screws until everything felt completely plush. Now, what I really need to do is go over this with another coat of paint, but I don't want this to be wet or sticky when I go out later this evening, so I'm not going to paint it right now, but I will be painting this in the very near future. My next quick project is these magnetic puck lights, which the magnets fell out of, or rather the lights fell off the magnets. You can see the magnets are hidden underneath these stickers, but I guess in the hot Oklahoma summer, the glue melted off the sticker and the magnet, which just caused the lights to fall off the ceiling. I found them all laying in the floor. So this is going to be a pretty simple fix. My idea is to put some Gorilla Glue, some Gorilla Super Glue down into these holes, glue the magnets back into place, and hopefully do this without getting any Gorilla Glue on my hands. My final project, which fortunately did not involve using any super glue, was to attach some of these metal hooks to the desk. Now, this one specifically is going to be used with a bungee cord to hold my microwave in place. The microwave seems to scoot all around on the desk when I'm driving, and it's already fallen off here once. You know, it's got that glass plate inside, and I really don't want that thing to break. So just like with the other screws, I found it super easy to just simply drill the holes first, and then I use my impact driver to push the screws down in there. This is a system that works really well for me, and if you're lazy like me and don't feel like switching bits all the time, this is all the better. So I got these hooks installed and a bungee cord run over the microwave, and that will hold this thing in place while I'm driving. Super good. Let's get on to some adventure. I am headed downtown to the local hospital, and the reason I'm going to the hospital, I'm fine, but I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. on a Saturday. So I don't want to drive down there tomorrow morning, and so if only I had a van I could sleep in. That's right, I'm headed to the hospital, and I'm going to be sleeping in this van in the parking lot. Now, I will tell you this, I've been to this hospital before, and they have pretty strict security. They do have a RV/overnight sleeping area, but I'm not going to be there. That would be way too easy. So I'm going to go, I could go to the parking garage, which also kind of feels too easy. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the visitor area, and I'm going to go see if I can blend in, and that's where I'm going to spend the night. Something I don't know that I've mentioned on this channel or not is that I have visited all 50 states here in the United States of America. I've driven to the lower 48, and I went on cruises to see Alaska and Hawaii. But I love a good road trip. I have driven all over this country. I've crisscrossed through every single state. I've put feet down, or boots down as they say, in every state. So when I say I've been to every state, that doesn't mean that I flew over it or drove straight through it. I have stopped, eaten, for the most part slept in every state. And the reason I mention that is because long before I had a van, I had a crew cab pickup. I had a Chevy Avalanche, a four-door Chevy Avalanche, and I spent some pretty miserable nights freezing and sweating to death sleeping in that truck. But the reason I mention that is because I never once paid for a place to sleep. I always found parking lots, businesses, places to sleep where I felt comfortable. I slept at a lot of casinos. I slept at some rest stops. Rest stops are not really my favorite because personally I feel like I feel like, my personal opinion, I feel like sleeping at a rest stop is like being a sitting duck. People know you're not from that area. People see you in your car and sleep. You look like a victim. You look like an easy target. So I don't care for that. But I've slept at convenience stores, places like, Love's, and I've slept at Walmart's. I don't need to list every place on God's green earth I've ever slept. But my two favorite places, well, casinos were pretty high on the list. So I should say 3. I'll put casinos on the list. But my other favorite 2 places were sleeping in parking lots of hotels, which is super easy depending on the part of the country that you're in. There are places like Chicago and New York City and Boston where parking is a premium, and they charge you. I've paid $80 to park a car, $80 for parking fees in Chicago at a hotel. So at those places, you're not going to get away with parking in their parking lot. They sell that parking, they want to get their money. But in places like Oklahoma and, in Oklahoma, every hotel around here just has giant parking spaces that are never full, so it's not a big deal. But the other thing I want to mention is I have parked and slept at hospitals, and it's a little bit of a hot topic because I never want to take away from someone else's important resources. You know what I mean? Like if there's a family and they had come to the hospital and they are going there to visit their family, and I'm sitting in a spot and they don't have a spot to park, I would feel legitimately terrible. That's who I am as a person. I would feel really bad. What you're going to find out when we get to this hospital is I'm going to say 90% of the parking spots are going to be available. There will be very few cars here. It's 6:30-ish, close to coming up on 7 o'clock. So we're not going to be taking anybody's parking spot. No, we're not going to be taking anything away from anybody. The other thing that I'm planning on doing at the hospital is we're going to go to the cafeteria and I'm going to eat some hospital food. We're going there. Why not? So anyway, that's the plan. Go to the hospital, sleep in the parking lot, get some hospital food at the cafeteria, and spend the night in the parking lot, and then go to my appointment in the morning. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, maybe they ask me to leave, then I'll leave. Maybe I get tased. I should get at least 7 subscribers. If I get tased, like and subscribe. Now, remember all that talk 30 seconds ago about how empty this parking lot was going to be? When I pulled in, I discovered that it was 95% full. In fact, I had to drive around and do a couple of laps to find a spot that was easy enough for me to park in. And I really had to make kind of a moral decision here. Should I stay in a hospital parking lot that is so full? Again, I just said that I would hate to take up a spot someone visiting a family member or has a reason to be at the hospital would need. Now, what I didn't know is that directly below this parking lot is another parking area, and I walked by there and it is 95% open. So there is plenty of parking, even though it doesn't look like it in this video. There is also additional parking across the street for vans and RVs and people that are staying long term. So I could have moved over there, but I think maybe you have to have a pass to do that. I'm not entirely sure. So it does look kind of bad based on what I just said, but I do promise you there is lots of parking available at this hospital, just not in this exact parking lot. Hello, officer. So the first order of business is to go inside, use the facilities, and find the cafeteria. And by the way, if you are not familiar with this POV point of view, I am using my Meta smart glasses to record. That way I don't look like a weirdo walking around using my phone to record in a hospital. One thing you may notice is that I changed shirts. I brought a gray polo to throw on. I don't know why. I just thought maybe I would look like a weirdo. I mean, there's no part of this where I don't look like a weirdo, but I thought I would look like more of a weirdo if I was walking around in a weird t-shirt, so that's why I brought this polo. For the record, I've worked in the same office for so many years that every time I used the restroom, I would wad up a paper towel, throw it behind my back, and make it into their shot. I am batting 1,000 on this basketball shot, which I realize now is mixing idioms. After referring to one of these maps, I found my way down to the cafeteria. Now, I have eaten at this cafeteria several times before. In fact, both of my children were born at this hospital, and so I know that they have a grill area and that they serve hamburgers and cheeseburgers and pizza 24 hours a day. They also have a big salad bar, and so that's what I was expecting to choose. However, over in the refrigerated area, I found that they had sushi rolls, and so I selected a spicy shrimp roll along with a cup of fruit and also a iced frappuccino from Starbucks, because what's a better thing to drink right before bed than an iced coffee? By the way, if you thought I was getting away with something by getting a free parking spot, don't worry, because 8 pieces of sushi, a small cup of watermelon, and this one coffee cost about $21 at the hospital. So they are definitely getting their money's worth out of me on this visit. I have heard that when separating chopsticks, rubbing the ends together to get these splinters off is kind of an insult in high-end restaurants, because you're implying that they use cheap chopsticks. But I don't expect that anybody in the hospital will mind if I do that. Also, I found some packets of soy sauce, which I put on the sushi. I did not see any wasabi, but as you'll find out in a minute, I found it accidentally. Also, I was so worried about looking out of place that there are 2 things I didn't grab. One would be a napkin, and the other one would be a fork to eat this fruit with. One way I found to blend in when going to restaurants is to put on weird-looking glasses and then set your camera up and film yourself while you're eating. Nobody suspects a thing. And while I didn't see it at first, there's the wasabi hidden right there in the middle. You know, I have read that in America, nobody has ever actually had real wasabi. All we get is horseradish colored green with food coloring, and that's okay. That's what we're used to eating. I'd like to have real wasabi someday, but I guess it's probably not going to be served in places like hospital cafeterias. And just like every other time in my life, I remembered wasabi is hot. To give my mouth a rest from all that wasabi, I decided to break into the fruit, and let me tell you, nothing looks less suspicious than sitting in a hospital cafeteria eating fruit with a pair of chopsticks. Just a normal guy eating watermelon with chopsticks. Nothing to see here. So after finishing my meal, I threw my trash away and walked over to the elevator and was about to head back up to the first floor where I parked, but wasn't quite ready to go out to the van yet, so I used the high-tech method of eeny, meeny, miny, mo and picked a random floor to explore. I believe I hit number 5, so let's go see what's on the 5th floor of the hospital. So again, I want to stress that I was not causing any problems in the hospital. I wasn't making a scene. I wasn't stealing anything. I was just kind of wandering around. But I will say, if the facilities are here, I think they're here to be used, and I ain't about that pooping in a bucket life yet. While I can't speak to the sushi, I will say that sometimes those iced coffees go through me pretty fast. Right around the corner from the restrooms, I found this vending machine, and there was a sign on it that said it was a veteran-owned vending machine, so I thought I would do my part and support them by buying a pack of peanut M&Ms. And, you know, I can't just walk around eating peanut M's. I had to go find a place to sit down and eat them, and what place looks better than this waiting room right across the hallway? Again, golly, I feel like a turd for saying this, but I do want to say, if there had been anybody in this waiting room, I would not have sat here. I would have immediately turned and walked out. So I don't think I'm as creepy as this video makes me out to be. So after a few minutes of catching Pokemon, I was afraid I was going to overstay my welcome, so I went back to the elevators and decided it was time to go back to the van. By the way, when the elevators opened, there were people on the elevator, so I immediately turned my glass cameras off. I don't want to capture anybody unwillingly on video. Well, listen, after eating our sushi, using the restroom, eating some peanut M&Ms, playing a little Pokemon, we've had our fun in the hospital. Now it's time, well, hello, officer, to get back out to the van and do what we came here to do, which is set up camp for the night and get some sleep before my appointment in the morning. Now, again, I know this parking lot looks really full, and I promise you, if I thought there wasn't more parking available, I would immediately leave. And I should have pointed out when I was walking out the door off to the right, there was an entire parking garage completely empty on the ground level. So I am not taking up a parking spot for other people. Once I was inside the van, the first thing I wanted to do was set up my laptop and try my new keyboard fold-out shelf. Look at that, works great! Security just pulled up next to me. I saw a flashing light. I saw flashing lights. Then I heard a car door. Can you hear him talking? Brains. I think they just drove off. You know, for me, and I'm only speaking for me, my situation, and taking everything into account, including my male white privilege. Stealth camping for me is a bit like riding a roller coaster. You know, it's like, it's exciting, like a roller coaster, and yet deep down we know we're not going to die. We know there's a 99.9% chance that nothing terrible is going to happen. We're going to feel all the excitements, the ups and downs, the little thrills from the loop-de-loos and the close calls and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, roller coasters are not designed to kill us, you know. And, you know, multiple times I heard the people on both sides of me walk up to their car, talk, get in their car, start their car and drive off. They don't know I'm here, you know. And I definitely heard security pull up behind me, get out, look at something, get back in their car and drive off. I don't know if they'll be back tonight. I'm hoping not. Or if they check once a day. I don't know. But if they do come back, they're not going to kill me. They might knock on the door. They might ask me to leave. But they're not going to shoot me. You know what I mean? They're not going to tase me unless things take a real hard left turn. You never know. I got an Irish temper. I got a mouth. But yeah, you know what I mean? So it's that feeling, it's that excitement, like a roller coaster. Like there's little thrills, there's things going on. And I could tell you this, from my mouth, I can tell you that I'm not scared. And every time I hear a car door, I tense up. I quit talking. I mute the TV. I silence everything. I sit here in silence, waiting for the sound to stop, waiting for whatever it is to go away. And so I can say that I'm not scared, but I get scared. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. I mean, it's that reaction like when we watch a horror movie. Like, we know the thing on the screen is not going to pop out and get us, but we still jump, right? It's like, we know, but we don't know. You know what I mean? And stealth camping, for me, is a lot like that. I like going out. I like going out to different places. The situation just lined up for this one. But if someone came here and asked me to leave, I'd just leave. I'm not gonna get in a shootout. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna get killed. I'd just leave. I'd go over to that other parking lot and I'd come back over here in the morning. Wouldn't be any big deal. So I don't know. But not to repeat myself, but I can tell you that I don't get scared, and every time I hear a sound, I jump. There are things that could go wrong. Someone could break into this van. Some over aggro security guard could come in and start yelling at you know, I mean, there are things that can happen. But I guess I would say I'm not scared until I get scared. I guess that's the best way to put it. Alright, it's time to turn off Quincy ME, watching some hospital shows right now. Time to turn that off and go to bed. Good night.
According to Roxanne's friend, late one night, a man showed up unexpectedly at her drug buy.
Well,
He had always angrily
good morning.
insisted that he had no information that might shed
I
light
fell
on
asleep
the
with the
past
TV
history
on,
and lesson.
the fan on.
This case occurred at Christmas time.
What time is
I'm
it?
sure myself and all the other detectives...
My alarm didn't go off yet. I set my alarm for 7.
Whomever committed that
And it's,
doesn't need to
yeah, it's
free
6:54. So,
I don't intend to ever give up trying to...
I figured if I set the alarm for 11, I'd be okay. For 8, my appointment at 8. Man, I slept like a rock. I fell asleep, I don't know, pretty early for me. Like 10:30. You know, that's one thing. Man, actually, it's funny that, I sleep better in the van sometimes than I do at home, to be honest. At home, I usually get about 6 hours of sleep. Last night, let's see, it's almost 7. I fell asleep at 10:30, so almost 8.5, 9 hours of sleep. That's a good night's sleep for me. I'm trying to hit the button on my battery with my toe. My battery, oh man, my battery's at 42%.
Start here impossible.
That's pretty low. Now, when I went to bed, it was at like 90%. I had to charge, I did a lot of charging. I charged my tablet all the way up. I charged all my LED lights. I forgot to charge a bunch of stuff before I left. So I charged it in here. So I used about 10% of my battery doing that. I'm gonna get ready.
Thank you guys for, because I couldn't turn off the TV. Oh yeah, that's a fun thing. I don't think I mentioned these lights. I love these lights, but every other remote affects the lights. So like you turn on the white light, and then here's my Roku remote. So let's say I want to switch channels on the Roku. So let me hit channel down on the Roku. It turns the lights green. When I hit power on the TV, it did something else. Every remote in here affects the lights, which is okay. It's just you got to do everything else, get everything else set up, and then you're gonna put the lights how you want it. So you always got to do the lights last. But while you're doing the other remotes, it looks kind of like a Christmas strobe light thing. So you know what else I forgot to do last night? Put up my grapes. Got to put it back in my fridge, and now my grapes are room temperature. This trip ain't sour grapes, but it's warm grapes. You know what? I shouldn't try to make jokes at 7 in the morning. Yeah, I hear the birds. Anyway, I gotta get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to all my Patreon subscribers. I had a few people buy me a coffee, and I'm getting ready to go right in this hospital. I'm gonna go buy a coffee at the cafeteria. I'm gonna go to my appointment. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for putting up with my crappy lights, and I'll see you guys on the I'll see you guys next week. Thank everybody. Thank everybody. By the way, I forgot to speak because it's 7. Bye. Once again, stupid ending.
Hey lady, guess what? I just slept here.
Here's my ending. Beep, boop, 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 boop. Oh, the stem. The stem on the end of the grape. I just can't wait to get on the road. Ho, ho, again.